Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is The Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my review videos. Now, obviously, this isn't the kind of thing I do on the channel all the time. I think before this video came up to the channel, it only had like 6 review videos, and only half of them were actually about movies. And I wasn't sure if I was going to review this movie, which is pretty obvious considering that this movie's been out for like over a week now, and I saw it over a week ago. But some of you guys, in person and over the internet actually expressed interest in me making a video like this. So I'm thinking, you know, why the heck not? Let's just do it. So today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on and my review of the Avengers Infinity War movie. There are a lot of things I want to cover in this video, so I am going to get this started really rather quickly. But before I start, I do want to say, in case you didn't read the title, this is a spoiler review, which means I'm going to be giving basically all the spoilers about this movie. So if you do not want to be spoiled and you haven't seen the movie yet, please click away from this video as fast as possible. This is the kind of movie that no one should be spoiled about. So please, if you don't want to be spoiled, get away from this video. This is your one warning. And also, just to be safe, if you haven't seen any of the other MCU movies, or you haven't seen all the other MCU movies, there is a slight chance I may spoil some of them. So yeah, you've been warned. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. So the first thing about this movie that I want to talk about is the film as a film and the story. Going into this movie, I tried my very best to make sure that my expectations were very low. And let me tell you, that was a really hard thing to do, considering that this movie has been brought to an almost unimaginable hype for the past few years. And the main reason why I did that was because this movie's success was far from guaranteed. Yes, we had two amazing directors, the Russo brothers, but they had so much they had to fill into this movie. This was the biggest cast out of any Marvel movie so far, and they had to make sure that everyone was given something relevant to do. They had to make sure they didn't contradict any of the previous 18 Marvel movies. They just had to make sure that this movie was not a complete mess. So even if this movie just turned out to be okay, not even like great or good or anything like that, we have to commend the people that worked on this movie, especially the directors. It is so amazing that they would have been able to do something like that, because, you know, there were so many things that could have gone wrong with this movie, and it could have just been so confusing if it wasn't done right. However, I thought that this movie, and this is just my opinion, was far better than okay. I thought it was an amazing film, and I thought that the directors did an amazing job with what they were given, and everyone that worked on this movie, the fact that they were able to make it as good as they did, I just think is unreal. Yes, there is a lot of scene and location jumping in this film, because there's just so much going on in this one movie. You know, you've got Iron Man's side of things, and Cap's side of things, and Thor's side of things, and there's just so much going on in so many different places all at once. So, you know, and that can get annoying for some people, you know, it might be hard to follow along for certain people. But I think that the way the Russo brothers did it, I thought that that was very well done. I thought that was the best way to approach it. Obviously, you can't have too much location jumping, because then it's just one huge mess, and it's hard to follow along with everything. But at the same time, you can't have it at one spot for too long, because then it might drag on a little bit, especially if the story arc is a little boring, you know, and then you start to forget about everyone else. I thought the time they gave to each scene before they switched over to the next location, I thought that was very well done. That was probably the best way they could have approached it, in my opinion. And all the storylines that were happening in this movie I thought were pretty cool. The one that I think that they could have trimmed just a little bit down was the one where Thor, Groot, and Rocket are trying to, you know, create Stormbreaker. That one I felt went on for a little too long. At one point it got like a little boring, and whenever it's cut back to it, I'm thinking, oh, we're going back here now? Okay. It was just a little boring. Maybe I'm just more of an action type of guy, and I just like seeing things go boom, or whatever. But it did seem to drag on a little bit, but I get that it was integral to the plot, you know, that they needed a weapon in order to kill Thanos or whatever, but at the same time, I just felt that it could have been cut down a little bit, but that's just me. One of the big things I keep coming back to with this movie is that I feel like there were certain characters that were underused. There were actually a number of characters that I thought were underused in this film, most notably Captain America and Groot. At least in my opinion, I just wanted to see more of them. I wanted to see them do more things. But at the same time, I'm not really sure if I can call this a real negative, because if they were to use them more, then this movie would have been even more cramped, or would have had to been even longer, you know? There's just so much already going on in this film that it's hard to find room for everyone to do something all the time, you know? So, and that's just the reality of things. Again, I think the way they handled it was really well, and while I would have liked to see more characters that I really like, and, you know, some characters that I feel were underused, the reality of it is that there's just not enough room for everyone to do something extreme. So, I'm not really sure if I can call call that a real negative. Another thing I want to point out is that there was no Ant-Man and no Hawkeye in this movie at all. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing, considering that there's already so many characters in this movie. It's just that there was so much mystery behind them, you know, because we haven't seen them in any of the promotional stuff, that, you know, we just, like, I just thought that they were going to come in, like, some huge reveal or something like that, but we got nothing. They weren't in the movie at all. That's why we didn't see them anywhere. And with Ant-Man, I can kind of understand that, because, you know, he's already getting his own movie, and he's not a real Avenger or anything like that. But Hawkeye, him not being in the movie, I thought was really weird. I mean, like, he was one of the core 6 in the first 2 Avengers films, and for me to say that he was not in the third Avengers film at all just feels really weird. Hopefully he'll be in the 4th one, though. I'm pretty sure he will be in the 4th one, so that's good. There are definitely other MCU movies you're probably going to want to see if you want to be able to fully understand this one. And, you know, obviously because it's the culmination of 10 years of MCU movies. You know, off the top of my head, I can think of Captain America Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, the 2 Guardians films, and possibly some others. You're probably going to want to see them if you want to fully understand this one. At the same time, however, obviously that didn't mean that much to me because I had seen all the other 18 MCU films, but at the same time, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that this film is overly confusing. Obviously, there are complicated parts to it, and there is complicated storytelling, but I thought it was still simple enough that, you know, everyone could follow along with it. It was complicated and simple at the same time, if that makes any sense. Now let's talk about the villains of this movie. When it comes to the Black Order, I thought it was really cool that they decided to include them, and I thought it was a good thing that they did. And they were okay enough, like, they weren't terrible, but I just didn't really care too much about those characters much at all. But Thanos, oh my gosh, I thought he was a great villain in this movie. He's honestly probably one of the best villains that we've seen in a while, and that's a good thing considering that they've been building him up for the past 6 years. In fact, when we look at the more recent Marvel films, they've been having a pretty good track record with their villains, especially considering, you know, that their villains in the past haven't been too great. Like, Killmonger, good villain. Hela, good villain. Vulture, good villain. I even thought that Ego the Living Planet was a fairly good villain as well. And now we have Thanos, who again, I thought was great. Thanos' motivation in this movie is definitely different than his in the comics. The short version is that in the comics, usually he's obsessed with Death, who kind of takes on a female form of some sort, and he tries to impress her by killing everyone. That's like the very short version of what he's trying to do. In the movies, however, or in the movie, it's different, obviously. You know, he's just worried about overpopulation, and he feels that the only way to solve this problem is by wiping out half of the universe so there's enough resources for everybody, and it's all random. And he thinks that, you know, just doing it with a snap of his fingers and erasing everybody, or erasing half the universe, is better than killing everybody. He thinks that he's showing them mercy, you know, instead of killing them painfully. And while obviously the heroes don't want this to happen and they want to stop him, we as the audience can understand where Thanos is coming from. Because, like it or not, overpopulation is a problem. We've dealt with this, or we've faced this problem, you know, in the past, and we're still facing it. And Thanos feels that he's the only one brave enough to actually do something about it. And we definitely see that he thinks that he is the hero in this film, which just makes for a really good villain. We can sympathize with him, and even though he's doing this in his own twisted sense, we can see how he definitely thinks he's right. That being said, however, there is one main gripe I have with his motivation, but I'll get into that closer to the end of the video when I talk more about the main negatives I have with this movie. Overall, though, really well made villain. This is the villain that we deserved for this movie. The movie also did a very good job of establishing early on and throughout the film that the Avengers really had no hope in this movie. Like, at the very beginning, we see that Thanos is, like, beating down the Hulk, and we see that now the Hulk is actually scared to come out. Like, he was the king of Sakaar, you know, in the battle arena in Thor Ragnarok, and now after one brutal loss, he actually says no to coming out and fighting people. And we know that the Hulk really likes to fight people in this cinematic universe. And you know, everyone was talking about how powerful he is, and that they only had like a 1 in 14 million chance of actually beating him when Doctor Strange looked into the futures. Like, there were times where I was thinking, how the heck are the Avengers even going to claim like a small victory from this? And of course, we know what happened, but I'll talk more about that later. Now I'm going to move into some more general stuff, such as the acting in this film. The acting in this film, I feel, is top notch. We can tell that all of these actors fully now understand their characters, especially the actors that have been playing their characters for a really long time now, like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo. They're knocking their performances out of the goddamn park. Like, Robert Downey Jr., it seems like it's easy for him now. Like, he's making so much money and doing this so well. It's honestly amazing what these actors are doing. Even the relatively relatively newer characters, such as Tom Holland's Spider-Man, Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange, Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, they're all doing great jobs as well. One of the things I really love about MCU films and, Marvel Studios is that they really know how to cast their characters right, and they have yet to disappoint me. And there was, the time right before Spider-Man disintegrated, when he was saying, he doesn't want to die, that was so heartbreaking, and that was so well done. Both Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. in that scene, that swept me off my feet, honestly. That was an amazing scene, and that whole ending, which I'll get into, I swear to God, I'll get to there soon, but that was just so incredible. The acting in this film, so amazing. These actors really know what they're doing, and it is unreal, honestly. In this movie, there are two spots where it really feels like some characters made some really odd choices, and the first one was when Doctor Strange gave up the Time Stone. He gave it to Thanos in order to save Iron Man's life. This choice seemed weird because Doctor Strange's job is essentially to protect the Eye of Agamotto, and we know how much he wants to protect it. He's not going to give it up so easily. He even said earlier in the film that he would willingly sacrifice either Iron Man or Spider-Man's life in order to protect this thing. Yet he's giving it up to Thanos, who already has 4 stones, in order to save Iron Man. So what gives? What I believe, and what it looks like a lot of other people over the internet believe as well, is that when Doctor Strange found one timeline that they actually were victorious out of like 14 million, he must have seen that Iron Man played an integral part in order to stop Thanos. So he knew that no matter what happens, he knew that Iron Man had to live. He knew that he had to save Iron Man's life at all costs in order for them to have any chance of winning, because in that timeline, the one timeline where they win, Iron Man plays an integral part. Even if it meant actually giving up the Time Stone and handing it over to Thanos, he must know that Iron Man is very important to them having any chance of winning. And that's probably what we're going to see in Avengers 4. We're going to see Iron Man do something crazy that only he could have done in order for them to have won the battle. Because hopefully they'll win in Avengers 4, but at this point, I'm not really sure. After this movie, I don't know. The second odd character choice, which I guess was technically the first one, considering that it happened earlier in the movie, was when Starlord lost his cool after he found out that Thanos had killed Gamora, and he just started attacking him, and this woke him up from the sleep that Mantis put him in, and that meant that the heroes could not get the Infinity Gauntlet off of Thanos' hand. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I do not think that this choice can be justified. Obviously, Star-Lord did a very stupid thing. They had a plan, they knew what they were going to do, and after he found out that, Gamora was dead and Thanos had killed her, he just threw away the plan and started attacking. He lost his cool. So I don't think that this could be justified, really, in any sense of the way, but I do think that this is the kind of thing that his character would do. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we see that Ego admits that he killed Quill's mother, and as soon as Quill hears this, he just starts shooting him over and over and over again, and we see that he loses his cool. He gets so angry, and while this does nothing to Ego, obviously, the main point that this scene makes is that, when he finds out that someone he loves has died, and he knows who killed that person, he gets so angry, he shoots first and asks questions later. So when he finds out that Thanos killed Gamora, it makes perfect sense to me that he just went all ballistic and started attacking him. Even if it went against the plan, we can see that Quill's emotions can take control very easily. Again, I'm not saying that this thing is justified in any way, shape, or form. He definitely should not have done that, but based on the character that we've seen so far, it made perfect sense to me. That's what I took away from that scene. But anyway, now let's get back to the general stuff. In terms of the humor, I thought that the humor was great in this film. As usual, Marvel always knows how to make me laugh. In terms of the level of humor, I thought this was actually going to be one of the more serious Marvel films. Obviously, it wasn't to the same level as anything like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or Thor Ragnarok, where they had joke after joke after joke. Obviously, this wasn't like that, but at the same time, this definitely did have a lot of humor. It had more humor than I thought it was going to have, because this movie was supposed to be, it's almost like supposed to signify the end, the end is near or whatever. So I thought there wasn't going to be as much humor as there was, but honestly, I didn't really mind it, because that's basically what I expect from Marvel nowadays, basically pouring on the humor, and that's not always a bad thing. Could I have gone with less humor? Probably, but most of the jokes did land for me, so, I thought that the humor was pretty good overall. Maybe could have gone with a little less, but overall, overall, I thought it was good. The visual effects I thought were on point this time around. They didn't really bother me too much. There were one or two points when they were on the planet Titan where I felt the green screen was kind of obvious, but other than that, it didn't really bother me much at all. The CGI is never the problem with these films. Really, I don't have too many problems with these films in general, but the CGI never really bothers me. And even if it does, I'm usually able to just push it to the side, uphold my suspension of disbelief long enough. But especially in this film, I didn't really find it too much of a problem at all. So, good work for all the animators in this and the people that are behind the CGI, because you did a really good job this time around. But the action sequences, oh my gosh, they were so good. They was basically like every nerd's dream, especially the Battle of Wakanda and after Thor and Rocket and Groot showed up. So high scale, so awesome, just visually, it was so good. Again, the visual effects, mixed with the action, it worked so well, they worked so well together, and just all the action scenes I thought were amazing. If you loved Civil War, and I did love Civil War, I know not everyone loved it, but I loved it, and if you loved Civil War, you would definitely love this, and it might go the other way. If you hate Civil War, you might hate this. But in terms of the action, it was so good. It was exactly what I was hoping for. Some people, I know especially some people that I talked to thought there might have been a little too much action, and it was just action scene to action scene over and over again, but I'm really into that kind of stuff, so that really didn't bother me too much at all. So yeah, I thought the action scenes and the visuals so great. They worked so well together, and it was exactly what I was expecting for this movie. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's talk about the ending of this movie. This was probably the last ending I would have thought they would have gone with, but they actually had the balls to do it, and that was insane. Even after Thor stabs Thanos with the Stormbreaker, and then Thanos just says, "You should have gone for the head," and snaps his fingers, that took the breath away of literally everyone in my auditorium. I heard so many gasps, and I gasped as well. It was so, what the heck? He actually just did that, He has all the stones, and Gamora said, he can just do it with a snap of his fingers. And that's exactly what happened. It was so insane. And seeing everyone just disappear like that, being erased from existence, that was so heartbreaking. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I actually cried, throughout the entirety of that whole sequence until the movie was even during the credits. I think I was crying. I was still crying, and it was so heartbreaking. Honestly, I don't even know, that's the best word to use. It was so heartbreaking. And yes, I am aware that everyone that died at the end of the film will most definitely be coming back, in Avengers 4. But even so, that is just seeing that all unfold, and seeing, all the emotion in everyone's eyes, seeing, the death, it was so insane. It was just, it's the last thing I would have expected them to do, and I did not go into this theater expecting that to happen, but it happened, and it caught me way off guard. To me, the ending of this movie almost felt like the alternate ending to what the ending of this movie should have been. And when I say that, I don't mean that I think they should have gone with another ending. In fact, for what they're building up, for Avengers 4, I think that this was the perfect ending. But it's almost as if, because the villain, he did everything he was supposed to do. He got all the Infinity Stones, he snapped his fingers, and basically the problem just kept going. It went throughout the film, and the villain won. And it's almost as if, the movie ended with the heroes winning, and then people were thinking, oh, so what if Thanos actually won? Well, this would have happened, this would have happened. That's almost as if what we were seeing on the screen. It was the alternate ending to what would have happened if the heroes won. And again, I think that was probably the best way they could have done this, for what they're building up. But again, it was just so heartbreaking and so emotional. It was crazy. Also, if any of you are wondering how this is going to affect the two movies in between the Avengers movies, in between Avengers 3 and Avengers 4, it won't. Because what I've heard is that the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie takes place before Infinity War, probably soon after Civil War, and the Captain Marvel movie takes place in the 90s. So yeah, these two movies won't be affected by the events of Infinity War at all. So yeah, just in case if any of you were wondering. So obviously there were a lot of deaths in this movie. I do think that everyone that got disintegrated at the end of the movie, I think every single one will be coming back. So, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Starlord, Drax, Scarlet Witch, everyone like that, I think they're all going to be coming back in Avengers 4. Probably having something to do with all of the stones again. But in terms of everyone that died before the ending, I think they're all going to stay dead. So, Heimdall, Loki, and Gamora, I think they're gone for good. Also, in terms of, the rest of the Asgardians, they're all dead too, right? Because we saw their ship blow up. So, would that mean that Korg and Valkyrie, and everyone else that was on the ship, they're also dead too? That's what I'm assuming right now. I know we didn't see it, like, actually on screen. We just saw the ship blow up, but that's what I think the implication is. And if that is the case, I think that they are going to stay dead as well. In terms of Vision, however, that one's kind of up in the air. That one might just depend on whether or not they get the Mind Stone back. If they don't get the Mind Stone back, then he may not come back. If they do get the Mind Stone back, I think he will definitely come back. Then again, Bruce Banner was saying that there might have been a way that he could have survived without the Mind Stone, so who knows? Vision is kind of up in the air. I'm not sure if he's coming back or not. So now I'm going to talk about the negatives. So remember way early on in this review when I said there was one gripe I had with Thanos' motivation? Well, here it is. Thanos believes that the only way to solve this overpopulation problem is to wipe out half of the universe, or wipe out half of the life in the universe. However, the reality of this is that's not the only way to do it. Something else Thanos could have done is just doubled the resources, or doubled the planets, and moved half the population to these new planets. Or heck, he could have created another universe and moved half of the population from the first universe into the new one. That way he could have solved this problem without, killing so many people. There were different, and because the Infinity Gauntlet, it could do literally anything he wanted. So he could have just, again, doubled the resources, or found other ways to solve overpopulation without actually having to kill anyone. And sure, it might not have been ideal, and the Avengers might have still tried to stop him, but the point I'm trying to make is that even if he's killing everyone painlessly, that is still far from the best thing he could have done. He could have just doubled the resources and made a completely new universe, and the problem would have been solved just like that, and no one would have had to die. The main reason why I bring this up is because Thanos definitely believes that he is the hero of this film. He believes that he's the only one smart enough and brave enough to actually solve this problem, and he thinks that he's doing the right thing. That much is clear. But at the same time, I feel like he's smart enough to know that there is a better way to do this than by killing everyone. If he thinks that he's truly the hero, and he sees himself as a hero, then I think that if he knew there was another way to save, solve the problem without having to kill everyone, he would have taken that chance and he would have done it. So that's just the thing I keep coming back to. Even though I think Thanos was a well-developed villain and I thought his motivation for the most part was good, there's just that one hole in there that I keep coming back to, and it does kind of bother me, to be honest. So that's the main problem I have with this movie. And obviously I did mention some other things I wasn't too much of a fan with earlier in this video, but now I'm going to talk about some other nitpicks that I had with this movie. The first one has to do with Red Skull, and I'm not saying that I think he shouldn't have been in the film. I actually think that it was awesome that he was there. I actually, after he revealed himself and showed his face, I actually said out loud, "Oh my god," that's how surprised I was, and I thought it was so cool that he made an appearance in this movie. However, the main problem I have with this is that it just leaves me with a lot of questions, and these are questions that I feel like I'm not going to get the answers to, because that's probably the last we're going to see of Red Skull. Sure, it answers the question of what actually happened to him at the end of Captain America the First Avenger, but it just leaves me with some other questions, such as, how did he become the Guardian of the Soul Stone? Is that just what touching the Tesseract does to someone? Or, how did he survive for all those years, considering that he was still in 1942 when it happened? Or did he travel through time? Or if not, what was he doing for all that time? Was he just sitting there waiting for someone to come to the edge of the cliff or whatever? And also, is he actually dead, considering that he gives off, some sort of a Phantom-esque vibe? There's just so many questions that I feel like this gave me, and all it really did was answer the question of what happened to him, and I was just fine with assuming that he was dead, so I wasn't really asking that question. And I feel like we're not going to get the answers to these questions because that's probably the last we're going to see of him. But that's just a little gripe I have with it. It's a very minor nitpick. I do have one more small nitpick with this movie, which also has to do with unanswered questions, but I'm not so upset about this one because I think that it will be answered in Avengers 4. And it has to do with the end credits scene. So right before Nick Fury disintegrates away, he calls or notifies Captain Marvel and essentially is saying, "We need your help." But here's the thing though, we know that Nick Fury is in the Captain Marvel film, or he will be there, and that movie takes place in the 90s. So if he had her on speed dial all that time, why didn't he call her for the Battle of New York, or the battle against Ultron, or anything like that? Why was he just waiting until now to call her? I know that they didn't need her help because, the Avengers did win, but, I'm just wondering, was she just sitting around waiting for that? Where the heck was was she? And again, I do think this question will be answered, or at least I hope it will be answered, but for right now, I'm just really confused. So those were my main negatives about the movie, and let's be honest, most of them were just nitpicks anyway, which is a really good thing. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. You know, the humor, the action, the acting, and the visuals were all great this time around. And you know, I really love the storytelling. It was so amazing that the directors were able to pull this kind of movie off in any way, shape, or form. And considering that they did it to the level that they did, that was insane. And even though I tried to keep my expectations low, let's be honest, they were probably like way up here. And I am happy to say that this movie lived up to that. This was the 10-year culmination movie that I expected from them. I'm happy to say that this met my expectations. And I am so happy that it did because I really enjoyed this movie and I hope you guys did too. Now before I sign off here, there are a couple of predictions that I want to make for Avengers 4. First of all, in terms of the title of Avengers 4, I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be. A lot of people have thrown around, you know, the idea of like it could be called Infinity Gauntlet or Avengers Endgame or something like that. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they just called it Infinity War Part 2, because even if these two movies are supposed to be very different, you know, this is at its core a two-parter. It clearly is. They probably won't go with Avengers Infinity War Part 2, but if they did, I honestly would not be surprised. It would make perfect sense to me. But the main prediction I have with this movie is that I think one of the three big Avengers, meaning Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, I think one of them is going to die. And if I had to choose who I think it's going to be, I would definitely say Captain America, and here's why. First of all, Chris Evans, the guy that plays Captain America, has formally come out and said that after Avengers 4, he is done playing Captain America. He's done with the character, he's leaving Marvel Studios. And yes, that does suck, but what it says for me, or what I take from that, is that, you know, if they were going to kill off one of the three big characters in Avengers 4, and I'm not saying they will, but that's just my prediction, then I think they would kill off, you know, the character whose actor has formally come out and said that he is not going to be playing the character any longer. Because from what I understand, Robert Downey Jr. nor Chris Hemsworth have said that they are have formally said that they're stopping with their characters. So it just makes sense to kill off the character whose actor has stated that they will not be playing that character anymore. Secondly, Captain America is the easiest character of the three to replace. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about recasting or anything like that. I'm talking about that both Falcon and Winter Soldier, or Bucky, they have both taken up the mantle of Captain America at one point or another. So if Captain America does die, one of the two can just take that role and we got Captain America again. You can't do that easily with Iron Man or Thor. And the last reason why I say that Captain America is going to die in Avengers 4 is because in one storyline, the name of the storyline is escaping me right now, but in one storyline, Captain America does sacrifice himself to Thanos in order to save everyone else. So essentially, what we have here is that Captain America, he dies at the hands of Thanos. And while it might not happen the exact same way in Avengers 4, they could do something very similar to that. So yeah, and because Captain America didn't have a huge role in Avengers 3, you know, in Avengers 4, he might actually have a bigger role, which would include his death. And I could definitely see that happening. But again, this is all just me. So anyway, that's my review of Avengers Infinity War and some predictions for Avengers 4. What did you guys think of the movie? What do you think is going to happen in Avengers 4? Tell me down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a huge like. I always appreciate the likes. Comment down below what you thought of it, what you thought of the movie, what you thought of this review. Give your own thoughts about it, anything like that. And if you guys could subscribe to my channel, that'd be so great. That would really help my channel out. If you guys are interested in seeing more reviews like these, like I don't do these that often, but if you're interested in seeing more things like this, then please tell me down in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your feedback, and who knows, maybe I'll do more of these, you know, for other MCU films and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to hear your feedback. But no matter what you do, your view is plenty of contribution, so thank you guys so much just for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. I really enjoyed this movie. I hope you guys did as well. Tell me your thoughts, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.